Hello, I'm Travis Sweller, and I'm serving as chair for the Educational Outreach Committee for Phi Beta Mu International. Joining me today for an encore, the next piece in a band director's life, is a good friend, a great colleague, a wonderful musician and educator from Mu chapter in Ohio, John Veneskey. John spent the bulk of his career directing both the middle school and high school band at South Range High School, right outside of Youngstown, Ohio. And he also spent 8 years as the assistant director of bands at Youngstown State. So, John, welcome. And before we go too much further, thank you for all your contributions to the Educational Outreach Committee over these last 2 years. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a privilege, Travis. I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
Yeah. Now, John, we're going to talk about life post band director, but if you just want to talk for just a few minutes about your career and about maybe getting to that point, and maybe some of those factors that weighed in on your decision, not just the years, but maybe some of the other things.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I was a music teacher, band director for 35 years of my professional career, mainly at South Range local, like Travis mentioned. A little bit of limited service work at Youngstown State University, and what turned into a tenure track position at Youngstown State. I was associate director of bands there when Steve Gage was the director of bands. So of those 35 years, there's a couple of little blips of doing some other things during that time, but mainly I was an instrumental music teacher at South Range local schools for my career. What led me to decide that it was time to maybe consider retiring was mainly physical. I don't know how many people, or even Travis, if you realize this, but I have MS. I've had it for most of my adult life, and I had a major increase of it in 2017. Such so that I was left without speech, without the ability to move, mobility, a pretty serious advancement of that disease grew up in 2017. So from 2017 on until I retired in 2023, I was left with some pretty substantial physical limitations that were, I would say, number one in why I decided it was time to probably step aside as far as that particular part of my career. Never really wavered in my mental attachment to the profession. Still haven't, to be honest with you, but physically, day to day, day in and day out, it became just a little bit too much. And since I was, I could make the decision, I did. And ironically, since that decision was made, I have found myself very occupied with an awful lot of things, and I guess we'll talk about that a little bit. But that's what led me to that decision. I certainly feel connected still, strongly. As a matter of fact, I'm doing an honor festival this weekend, middle school honor festival this weekend, that I'm looking very much forward to. I've totally enjoyed preparing for, and I'm anxious for. So I'm still quite connected mentally, Anyway, that was to kind of answer that question and address that question. What led me to believe it was time would have been more physical than anything, and due to this, what I call dumb neurological disease that I have, the MS. So that's what led me ultimately to make that decision, and I'm thankful that I was able to be honest with you.
Yeah, but John, the thing that impressed me, and I had some cursory awareness of some of those the obstacles you were facing because of the MS, and I guess the message in there, for a younger teacher who is, has that feeling like, oh, there's no way I can do this, and like that model that you set, and I know you were still working with student teachers during that time. You were still like setting that example each and every day. And, from afar, I was able to admire that, like, well, if John's doing this, like, come on, we can all pick up the torch and we can all carry.
Well, I appreciate that. It was, I was the beneficiary of a couple of things. First of all, beneficiary of having amazing students to work with. Secondly, amazing family, supportive. Thirdly, amazing medical team in charge of me and my recuperation and recovery. And then also the people I worked for, and actually that has continued in my post-retirement career. The people I worked for have been fantastic and supportive of what I do. So I do appreciate those words, but it's at the risk of sounding cliche, it really kind of has taken a village, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciative.
And it's, I guess that's another just sort of comforting part is, and maybe, I don't know, in some ways, maybe that fueled some of your desire to remain connected, your desire to stay active, because you understood that support that you had over those last 6 years. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and pay a little bit back. That it was paid to me. I'm going to pay a little bit back.
Absolutely, no question about it.
You and I were joking before we started recording that I had 47 emails on a Monday and since 8 a.m. And so you were laughing that you did not miss that. So I get it. I guess, and you maybe sort of answered this a little bit as you talked about students, but what elements do you miss about the gig that you weren't expecting to?
I'm not sure I wasn't expecting it.
Okay.
But certainly it's the human beings. I mean, up to including custodial staff, administrators, people, people being in contact with people, students, obviously, but just the lifeblood of me in the profession. I would suspect that's the same for you, Travis, is the people and the colleagues and the networking and the people that make up the profession. And I'm so very thankful that my job now, I get to drive around and visit those my favorite people, every week, and provide services to them through Pellegrino Music and whatever. Now I'm serving as a guest conductor at a festival for actually some of my former students at Youngstown State. They're director of bands at various places. So it's people. It really is. It's pretty simple. I don't miss it because I still have contact with it, but if there's something I miss from the actual, job, it would definitely be like if I went back and visited South Range now. I have not. But if I did, I would go directly to the custodial offices and just hang out with those guys and gals.
Yeah. I felt, during my time at Mercer, like I did feel that bond as well, that the lifeblood of people who did those little unsung things that were far removed from being musical, but it made what I was able to do with my students and my groups during the day, that much easier.
Nothing to do with music. I mean, that's my doctoral dissertation kind of addresses this a little bit. This is our jobs as far as what's important. Nothing to do with music. Those extra musical things, and as well as I do, Travis, and it also makes up a lot of our jobs, particularly in these public schools.
Yeah. And I can't help but think, and, this is something that it does weigh on me. And, obviously we want to educate students, and we want to teach them to have a passion and a love of music. We want to show them that. We want those kids to play well. We want our bands to play well. But at the end of the day, like, we raise a lot more, we help train a lot more pharmacists and lawyers and doctors and auto mechanics and elementary education teachers and computer programmers.
No doubt.
Future band directors.
No doubt.
And so that, that ability to continue to influence people and connect with people, such like, there are moments, and I've said this to my groups, and I know you probably have thought it, and I should say I've said it to my music ed students, and I know you probably have told it to student teachers. There are times whenever that we have a student that the band does more for them than they will ever do for the band.
Right. Yeah, that student that needs band more than the band needs them, and vice versa. There are students that band needs them, more than band needs the students. But that's certainly a theme throughout my career at every level.
Yeah. The one thing that we did, we touched upon as well as we were, working on some resources for educational outreach. Just I know you're busy in maintaining your connection, and you want to talk a little bit about, because there may be some directors who are on the fence and thinking like, well, maybe this is the time to retire, but I don't know what I'm going to do next. And it's one thing to decide to retire, but I think it's another thing to know, like, okay, well, what else is a possibility for me with my skill set? And
Yeah. Well, without being incredibly specific, I totally understand that thought process. And I certainly was fearful of it myself. And I just remember people telling me, John, don't worry about it. There's going to be plenty of opportunities. You're going to have so many opportunities that you didn't even dream of having. And it won't take long at all once people figure out that you're going to retire, that, hey, John's available, and I'm going to give him a call for this or for that. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, sure. Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, I think certainly just by the nature of what we do, Travis, lends itself to so many things post-retirement, whether they be related directly to our profession or indirectly. The skill sets that we've developed throughout our experience lends themselves to so many things. I was retired. I think I was official on I want to say it was a Monday, maybe. I forget what the exact date was. The actual official retirement date. Literally a day later, my phone rang, and it was Jerry, because my former colleague Jeff Cesare told him that, hey, John's going to be retired. Within a week, I was hired to Pellegrino Music as an educational representative. A few weeks later, I was slated to work for Jim Volnick over at Campfield Middle School one day a week as a paraprofessional with some sectional times. Certainly I continue to maintain a fairly active performing schedule. I'm a trumpet player. And I don't know if there's behind me, you see a music stand is full of music that I've got over the next several weeks for various things, Packard Band and the Sheet and Tube Brass Quartet and the Western Reserve Brass Quintet. And I make the joke that I really, in a lot of ways, different ways, but I am a little busier now than I was. It's a different busy.
Different kind of busy.
I'm a little busier now. Now I'm retired than when I was working full time. I mean, it's kind of saying no to some things, because of priorities, for sure. Absolutely. I'm a grandfather twice over, and so life, it changes. But I can all but assure somebody who's maybe on that fence and is able to perhaps consider what I said, that life will be okay, and then you'll have plenty of things to do.
You know what, and that's one of the things that I think there are so many in Phi Beta Mu in particular, that they have an incredible sense of purpose that they live with each day, and that drives them in the rehearsal hall. It drives them in the practice room, helping a student with a lesson, directing the band after school. And I think maybe sometimes that fear, like, I'm not going to have that purpose anymore. But if I'm hearing you, like, purpose evolves, it changes.
We are defined. It defines us. Our profession defines us, right? So if we've done that for, I did it for 35 years, but it's hard to imagine something that defines you that you're going to separate from. It's and what actually happened, at least in my case, is, that clearly defined me during that time of my life, my professional life, but it certainly is not clearly defining me at this point, post that time, the professional time of my life in the public schools in the Youngstown State. It's changed. There's still I'm so thankful. You use the word purpose. I can't think of a better word, but I, without question, still feel that 24/7, Travis.
That's great. That is great to hear. There was another thing that I wrote down. I just wanted to circle back to. You mentioned about like not having gone back to Southland yet.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that because there is part of our hubris that maybe at points, like we go into a program, we work hard, we build things up, and then we leave it for somebody else to, take care of.
Yes.
That stewardship of like, I'm taking care of this while I'm here, but I'm not going to be here forever. And I think sometimes maybe that influences a director that like what I don't want to let go because
Yeah.
we're not ready for it to go on without me. But
Right.
that can be a tough inner conversation to have of, you know what, I've set this up the best I can. This program is ready to excel without me. And
Yes.
you don't want to be the linchpin that if it's removed, that everything falls apart.
Right. Right. Which is very unsettling. Up to and including the point I made a delivery for one of my colleagues to South Range a month or so ago. And I made sure that the director knew to meet me at a back door, not a public door. I think nobody knew I was there, to make the delivery. I was doing a favor for one of my colleagues to get some instruments, some rental instruments there, but I made sure that the director knew to meet me at a place where there wouldn't be, I don't know, upheaval's not the, I just don't want to disrupt,
Yeah.
um, you know, um, because I literally that was a place where um, I was very attached to, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't want to cause any sort of not coincidence, not a upheaval, but you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
disruption.
well, yeah, and you certainly don't want that new person to feel that like
Oh
they're looking over my shoulder. And
no.
I'm for me personally, I felt like one of my failures at Mercer was just leaving a little bit of a shadow there for the
Mhm.
person that followed me, and that pains me, a little bit to think that I unintentionally caused an expectation that a different person wasn't going to be able to fulfill.
Right.
And that idea of we have to preach and we have to model loyalty to music education, loyalty to bands,
Right.
and all the while we do have to remember that it is their school, it is their band. It's technically not our band. Like we direct it, and by golly, if we don't have the fight song at the right tempo after the football team, of course we're going to hear about it.
Sure.
But that very thought is just making sure that we're always we're hopefully setting it up for the next person to walk in and just be successful.
That's so very accurate. It's so very accurate, and certainly you did not do that. And I'm not sure that I did that either, but intentionally left
Right.
a shadow there. It's totally unintentional. You're right. And I preached this to the kids for years. I mean, this is not my band. This is your band, not my band. But that's a tough concept for a young student
Yeah.
to grasp.
Well, I would often ask my band at Mercer, I would say, well, if your last name was on the back of our uniform, how would you want to be represented? Like,
Yeah.
it's not my last name,
Yeah.
it's our school's name. And so we have to, we have to be, we have to be aware of that. Uh,
Yes.
knowing what you know now, John, and maybe even setting the MS aside, if you had a director in your circle that you knew was about, let's say, 10 years out from retirement, what, like, one piece of life or non-binding financial advice would you give them?
Don't count the remaining days. Don't count down the football games you have left or the basketball games. Don't count down.
Okay.
Just teach music. Love kids. So many of my colleagues, not my closest colleagues, but some of my colleagues, kind of approached the last many years like that, and it was just not healthy for anybody. I remember when I was in undergraduate school, I was an active player up in Toledo and Detroit. I went to Bowling Green State University for my undergraduate, and I played in a lot of shows, a lot of bands with guys and gals that were active directors up in that region. And I remember just me getting totally turned off by that kind of an attitude, like, oh, I only have whatever, 20 more games in retirement. That's got to be crazy thinking to me, to the point where I'm like, I'm not sure I want to do this. if that's going to be me, I'm going to be counting till I retire. To the point where I've changed my major for a short period of time. I have a performance degree as an undergraduate. My first music ed degree is my PhD, Travis. Says I don't know if you knew that or not, but no. My first actual music ed degree, I was certified to teach, of course, but I didn't have a music ed degree until my PhD.
From Kent State.
Yeah, where we were somewhat classmates. I was behind you a little bit, but yeah, my first music ed degree was a PhD. So yeah, I left the music ed program early on because of that overriding attitude, being exposed to that attitude. I didn't want to be that way, unhealthy.
That's that part of it I did not know about you.
Yeah, not many do.
That is a fascinating perspective, to sort of think that way. And I didn't even, and I don't know how my last year at Mercer would have been 2017, and I really was resistant to any kind of send off. Like the kids knew in March that I was moving to Messiah University, and that's not what I wanted, because I never wanted it to be about me. Like this was the kids program, the kids band, and having that. I just wanted to treat every performance that we had. This is just another performance for your school, and sort of getting that message across. So
yeah, that was an uncomfortable part of my career, was like those last those 6 months when people knew it was official, and it was uncomfortable on so many levels and in so many situations. So that was not, I would not have chosen that kind of attention. I appreciated that it was from their hearts, and they were doing the best they could to portray what they felt about me. But it was the most uncomfortable part of retiring, was that kind of attention.
I can certainly identify and appreciate that, John.
Yeah.
So I know that we may have some directors that are tuning in. You mentioned doing this honors festival this weekend. Any good pieces that might be a good choice for a middle school band for contest or festival or adjudication or assessment, whatever it's called in whichever state you are?
Yeah, well, I'm actually doing the OMIA District 5. You've done it before. I've done it one time.
That's a great.
I think band. I did it in 2001.
Okay.
The middle school band, and my 35-year-old son was he was in the clarinet section last time I did this. So my District 5 colleagues a year ago asked me to come back and do the middle school honor band. I didn't answer them right away because I was unsure.
Sure.
But yeah, you've done the District 5 band.
Yes.
So you know that scene.
Yeah,
that's coming. And so as far as lit, I'm so far out of touch with what is on required lists.
Sure.
There's some really cool pieces. Only two that I've done before, like I've actually taught and done at festivals before. But so I've spent the last year, matter of fact, I was so undecided early on, and my wife did point out to me that, John, you came home last year from that conference and immediately started listening to music. You probably should say yes. So a year of looking at literature. And here's the thing about middle level literature, and you know this better than I do, probably, Travis. As opposed to the beginning of my middle school, teaching career to now, there are so many composers, Travis Weller, so many really good composers composing for middle level. Right. It's making it more difficult to choose, programs for sure. I have filed through so much. I mean, Christina Huss. I'm looking at literature here. Of course, Brian was a mainstay when I went back to public education, middle level. Yukiko Nashimura. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the scores right here. Sorry, Richard Saucedo. Who else? Carol Britton Chambers.
Yeah.
Travis Weller. There's so many people writing quality music literature for
Yeah.
our middle school curriculum. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Just the pantheon of choices
oh
that
my,
are out there. It's encouraging. It is. It's a lot to sift through.
yes, it took
But
me a long time.
there's ways that you can approach programming now that, like, I can remember, like, in junior high band, I can remember playing a Bill Moffat arrangement of Semper Fidelis, and I remember playing Brandy, and like I can remember a couple other things that we were playing, but I just there weren't the choices that there certainly are now, and just compelling rep that allow kids to see themselves a lot more in the music and in the composer, and really build a stronger, I guess, affection and affinity with band music than we've had,
Absolutely.
yeah, for quite some time. So
Yeah. So I'm sorry to not answer your question.
no, yeah, answered like that's the beautiful part about these committee conversations. Like, they're just supposed to be organic, and we have some general topics that we want to hit, but we also just want to leave room to talk about some other things and provide perspective. So, well, John, any parting moments for this encore to some of our brothers and sisters in Phi Beta Mu across the nation?
I really feel like it has been a privilege to do what I've done. I mean, who gets to do what they love to do every day for their career? So it's been an amazing, not to be dark, or I don't want to talk about death, but like if I left, if God called me home today, I hope that it doesn't. I'm not quite ready for that. But my life has been so rich and rewarded, um, with the profession of music education at the centerpiece of it all. I feel so blessed and so fortunate to have done what I've done for my career, and now using what I've done for 35 years to do some more in a different way, in service the people that are active in the profession. So, and students, frankly, I'm looking forward to meeting these 120 students on Friday morning. I'm looking forward to do that, and I'm so thankful that people still think that I have something to offer. My biggest worry is disappointing some people because they have memories of me. It's like, oh, it's the best, and it's been a while since I've done this. But just it's such a rewarding. And again, I think I'm being a little bit cliche here, but don't forget just how blessed we are and rewarded we are in this profession. Don't forget. It's easy to do that when you get kind of stuck in the mire and the muck and mire of the actual job. But really, when it comes right down to it, and I think, at least my brothers and sisters of Phi Beta Mu, the Mu chapter, I think they have a pretty good grasp of this, just how rewarding this career really is, and what's the fellowship we have that it's just unbreakable. It's a fantastic bond for the rest of our lives. So thankful, be thankful to do what we do, what we love to do.
Yeah, and about a week before Thanksgiving, that's a great message to end on. John, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for your time.
Travis, I appreciate it.
All right. Phi Beta Mu, we hope to see you at Midwest this year, and check out the website for all the details regarding the international meeting. Life, love, and music. Until next time, this has been Travis Sweller with Committee Conversations from the Educational Outreach Committee of Phi Beta Mu International.